Hey there, here's a quick note before we begin. You can support the podcast by downloading, sharing, or checking with my favorite hiking gear at justhike.com. Let's hit the trail. Today on the Just Hyke Podcast, I'm excited to welcome Tonya Moore. Tonya is part of the Mammoth March team, a nationwide 20-mile hiking event that challenges everyday people to step outside their comfort zone and discover just how strong they really are. She sat down with me to share her personal experience with Mammoth March, what it takes to make these events so powerful, and a little bit about her background after retiring from a long career in HR. This was such a fun and inspiring conversation, and I know you'll enjoy hearing Tonya's story. Tonya, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here on the Just Hyke podcast. When did your love for nature and the outdoors begin?
I kind of grew up in an environment with parents who kind of limited, okay, no more than 2 hours of television.
No.
I was only allowed to stay on the phone. And this was, phones weren't cell phones back then, right? My dad was like, you've got a half an hour and then you have to be off the phone. So they very much encouraged, you need to go outside. You have to be outside and play. It probably wasn't until I was in college and you have to walk to all your classes. And I'm in Indiana and it's snowing and it's cold. But, there was just something about getting outdoors, right? That I just really enjoyed because I've had to do it my whole life. So
Right.
I think there's just a love for that. So a little bit of the parent influence, but then after that, really thought, no, this is good. This is good for all of us, right?
It is good for all of us. Absolutely. Yeah. It's amazing what nature and the outdoors does to our mental health and our wellness and just the movement, but also getting away from the screens and getting away from the structure of the buildings. I know there's more research going on about it all the time, and just a strong believer in getting outside and enjoying the outdoors. Tonya, what led you to get involved with a Mammoth March?
So as I mentioned, we had retired, my husband and I both, and he picked up that P game, that pickleball game, right? I might be the only person on the face of the earth who doesn't enjoy pickleball.
I can't play pickleball. I'm terrible at it.
Thank you. So again, kindred souls. Yeah, not my thing. And so while he was kind of going and doing that, I thought I need to find my own challenge. And so, we have a big presence, Mammoth March does, and Facebook. And so I see this posting and I think 20 miles, I love to walk. I mean, we are kind of those crazy vacationers. When we go to New York, we never rent a car. We walk everywhere or take the public transit. We go to Vegas, we don't rent a car, we walk everywhere. So I thought, could I walk 20 miles? It kind of intrigued me. And I thought, okay, this is something I can do. So signed up about 3 months before the Alabama event in 2023. Went back to the husband and said, look at this, 20 miles in one day. What do you think? You want to do this? No, absolutely not. He loves to walk and hike. And he said, that just sounds crazy to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, I had to find a friend then to do it with me because I didn't know what I was signing up for. So my good friend, whose name is also Melanie, so she agreed to do it with me. And we just started training for it. And so my first event was 2023 in Alabama with my good friend Melanie, not my husband.
I know sometimes the husbands, they just don't want to do those longer distances or the harder hikes. I find my husband, he's good with like the shorter distances and he likes to camp and he likes to be outdoors. But, the 20-mile event, he's like, no, that's just not. Yeah.
Well, a follow-up to that is after I did the Alabama event with my friend Melanie, of course, her husband came as support for her as well. And they went and played golf and then came back. And when my husband saw just the camaraderie and the fun, he was like, I'll do the next one with you. So now he has done 8 of them, 9 of them. So now we're both hooked.
That's very good. So at 58 and retired, what motivates you to keep on showing up for these long distance events?
I think back to the being outdoors. I think it's a whole different community of folks that you're out there with. I think it's so important to move every day, just like we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
That constant movement. And I like kind of thinking about, oh, well, there's a new location. Well, I've never hiked in Arizona, so this is kind of a good excuse to do that. So I think again, just as a, you know, more mature woman, I want to keep moving. I want to keep challenging myself. And what better way to do it than to go to a supported event and then I get to travel to all these kind of cool locations on top of it.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, kind of going to those cool events, but eventually you joined the Mammoth March team. So tell me about that.
Yeah, so it was a little series of events. The first one I'd hiked was in Alabama in 2023. My husband hiked another event with me in 2023 in Ohio. Then we decided, oh, this is kind of cool. You do it once, you get a little hooked, and then you want to do it, now I want to do all of them. So then we decided, well, we'll do a couple in 2024, which we did, love those. And then we said, let's go out to Arizona. We had not done some of the big parks out there, if you will. We had volunteered for an event back in Alabama since I'd already hiked it. So we hiked them, we volunteered. Let's travel to Arizona. Let's do one out there. And let's hit some of the bigger parks like Zion and Bryce while we're
Hmm.
visiting. Well, lo and behold, the actual organizer of the event happened to be staying in the same hotel. I mean, what's the coincidence of that? He sees us with some Mammoth March stuff on. We see him. We start a conversation and said, hey, if you need any help during this Arizona event, we're happy to. And he said, well, would you like to sweep? And a sweeper is somebody who is at the end of and stays behind all the hikers to make sure that they get through the trail safely.
Yes.
So we volunteered with a couple of other folks. We swept. And the next thing you know, we were talking and said, hey, we're retired. Do you need additional help, support? He's like, yeah, that would be great. So the next thing you know, we're traveling. I think our goal last year, or really this year, was to do 6 events. I think we did 14.
Wow.
Yeah. So it
Very
just kind of
cool.
progressed from being at the event, volunteering, seeing the fun, and then kind of getting interested in what happens behind the scenes.
Oh, absolutely. So let's move on to what is it about hiking and endurance events that lights you up the most? What do you think makes it so exciting?
Yeah, I think just knowing that your body is working for you. I think sometimes the older we get a little frustrated with our bodies, right? The way it used to, and maybe it doesn't feel the way it used to. But when I go to this event and my body works for me and allows me to complete 20 miles in one stretch, I'm like, thank you. Thank you for doing that for me. That is such joy to me. So that keeps me. And then to see other people finish, folks show up for these events for a whole lot of reasons, right? Maybe there's something they're battling or something that they need to get out of a comfort zone and they get there. There's something about finishing these events that are very emotional.
Hmm.
For me, the first time I finished with a friend, we both cried. Just the fact that we could do it, right? Like,
Hmm.
oh, I am tougher. I can do hard things. So that's what keeps me coming back.
That's really cool. I remember the first time I did a long distance event, it was 26 miles. And those last few miles, they can be, it's
Grueling,
mental
right?
toughness, right? It's that
Yeah.
grit. It's that my feet hurt, but you still have to keep on going while you either stop and do a did not finish, like a DNF, or you just push through some of those aches and pains that may creep up and finish that race. And it's such a proud moment when you do finish and you cross that finish line.
Very much so. And like you said, well, let's talk a little bit about folks who don't finish as events, but
Yes.
I also want to talk about, like you said, that high of finishing. I play a little bit of a game with myself, and I don't know if you did that during one of your 26 milers, but since I walk every day, I generally walk 4 to 6 miles. And so what I would do at these events is I'd kind of play a game with myself and say, okay, 20 miles. No, no, no. Let's break it down. You're just walking to the gym. You're just walking to the movies. Let's get the 4 to 6. Well, then the next thing you know, well, I'm just walking home from the movies. Oh, that's another 4 miles. And now I'm down into single digits. I've only got 9 more to go. Play the game with myself.
I like that mental mind game for
I
sure.
got I got to break it down a little bit. It
Yeah,
makes it
yeah.
less daunting that way. Yeah,
Absolutely. I
yeah,
start to get into more gratitude type things. So when I'm walking, I'll start to, especially when it gets hard. At first,
yeah,
I'm just looking at the scenery, I'm having fun, I'm chit-chatting with people. And then, when you're nearing like whatever hour it is, let's just call it the 11th hour, right? You're
yeah,
near the
yeah.
end.
Yeah.
And so then that's when I start to pull into, I go into my head and I start playing the mental game and I just start saying, okay, thank you to so and so. Said I appreciate, the
Yeah.
trail support. I appreciate all the snacks that were given. I appreciate,
Yeah.
the ride that I got. I'm, just start going through all
Yeah.
that gratitude stuff and it just really starts to change your mindset and you're able to
Yeah.
push through those hard things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as you know, since you've done these events, when you've got a crowd around you and other people
Hmm.
are supporting you, you are so surprised that those last miles, especially if you've been talking to someone along the trail, again, how quickly they go, how quickly the time passes, but just having that rush of that community, or you hear the music playing at the finish line, because we'll talk a
Ah,
little bit about
yes.
the DJs we have present when we're at these events. You hear that music, and I'm like, oh yeah, the ends. I got this. So
There you go.
absolutely, yeah,
That's very cool. Very cool. So let's move on to a little bit. Let's talk about training and preparation. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, let's
really,
move on to that. So you said that you do a lot of walking
I
already.
do.
Does Mammoth March provide a training program for, like, is that part of the resources when they sign up? And what would you recommend for people to do to help prepare them for the Mammoth March? Because as you know, in Texas, we have one coming up in, I think it's February, and it's a 2-day event because there's so many participants, which is so exciting. And I
Texas,
know I was talking to Michael
yeah,
about the event, and he said the primary demographic for the event is, what is it, 70% women or 80% women over the age of 48? Like
that's right.
that's incredible. And I
It
love
is.
that demographic. That's exactly where we're at. And
Yep.
so what do you recommend for people to, how do they prepare and what can they expect on the event day?
Sure. Well, let's go back a little bit. You'd said something about what does Mammoth March do for folks in preparation?
Yeah.
Great question. So we do have what I'll call just kind of candid media that gets pushed out that says, hey, reminders on if you are getting ready to do an event, start a couple of months early and you'll see that. It just so happens we're going to release a video that talks so you can actually, instead of it just being like I say, a still photo and just some bullet points, it's actually going to be a video to talk about things like stretching, and it just so happens that my husband and I, were asked to be in that video. So I hope that
Ah,
you'll get to see that soon.
oh,
Yeah, no judgment on my squats and my
no.
lunges. Yeah. So we're going to start doing that a lot more. So you're going to
Cool.
see a video coming out probably before the end of the year, maybe first of the year, to start to get folks prepared. But for me personally, before there was a video or some of the items that were being pushed out, again, knew I loved to hike, could generally do, 4 to 6 miles, but I knew I needed to kind of keep ramping it up. So I would say kind of having a weekly routine
Mhm.
where you're doing some kind of walking, right? And I would definitely throw some elevation into it. You will find that some of our locations have obviously more elevation than others. Florida's pretty flat.
Uh-huh.
You start heading to Oregon and even the Alabama one, you're starting to get to the more difficult elevation. So I would always throw a little more distance every week, but I would throw in some elevation. If you happen to live in a state like Indiana where it's hard to get elevation, get on that treadmill and ramp it up a little bit so that you get that going as well. But I would just start with some kind of, every week you add a few more miles or you do a little bit more elevation and do it for a bit longer just to get the body used to it. I personally never hiked the full 20 miles before I did an event. The most I ever did prior was 14. So I don't know
Gotcha.
that you have to. And I think that's probably true for runners when you did your 26 milers, right? Maybe you never did a full 26.
So, no, I had never done a full 26 before, and it was a combination of hiking and walking and jogging and
Right,
the
right.
whole gamut when you get into
Yeah,
those kinds of distances. I'm not in the elite athlete category. I'm just a regular person who enjoys the challenges of
yeah,
longer distances. And it's just a matter of increasing those
yeah,
times a little bit, increasing those miles. And increasing those elevation changes. I'm in the Houston area. I'm just north of Houston, so we're very flat,
yeah.
very similar to Florida. There's not a lot of elevation changes. And so what I do to get my elevation changes in is either the stair climber at the gym, the treadmill with a
Yeah,
incline,
fine.
or I
Yeah.
really like doing stairs like out at the bleachers or out at a high school stadium or a park or something. If it has steps, that's even hard to find around here,
Yeah.
is a park with steps.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Well,
So
and I
that's the
think,
challenge for us, right?
yeah. And one more thing, let's add in just the whole strength training, right?
Absolutely.
I think, and I'm going to, the audience wise, I think both men and women, when we get into a more mature age, definitely women, we have to do some kind of strength training. We have to
Definitely.
hit those barbells or dumbbells, and we have to hit the gym a little bit because we just start to lose that just naturally. Other things in our lives, menopause, we'll just say the M word, I'll throw it out there. We start to lose, right? Those
Right. Well,
super important that we do
add
that.
that O word in there too, the osteoporosis and the
Yeah.
osteopenia. We
Yeah,
need to do that weight bearing exercise.
we
And I
sure
think
do.
that's one of the benefits of hiking is that, you have a backpack on. So not just a weighted vest. Weighted vests are great,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But you throw in a backpack, you put some water in it, and you put some snacks, and you add a few things in there, some of the essentials,
Right.
and you have a weighted pack.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's some of your strength right there, some of your weight bearing exercise.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Would you like me to go ahead and kind of describe what the day of the event looks like?
Yes,
Or,
please.
yeah,
That's
I think when folks sign up for a challenge like that, we all internally get a little bit nervous. I feel like at these events, our culture is to take all that worry as much as we can away for you so that all you truly have to think about is showing up that day and just keep hiking and walking. Everything from the moment that you see signs that tell you where to park, we have folks who are going to show you where to park. You're going to sign a waiver. Now, the waiver is the whole legal thing because we want to make sure nobody forced you to be there. And I'm usually the one who does the meet and greet on that one. Then, once you sign the waiver, you actually go to the registration. We have a system called Race Roster. As long as you know your last name and you have a driver's license, you are good to go.
nice.
Once you do that, then you're kind of in the area where we call kind of our main event staging area, where there's now a DJ who's playing music. We're releasing hikers every 30 seconds, and they're doing dialogue with all the hikers. Where are you from? And do you have your dog with you? We'll talk about the pooches and, is this your first event or is it your 20th event? Music playing, DJs, you're meeting folks who are going to hike with you. Always a little bit of a line for the porta potties. We always need to mention that. So just be patient with that. And then you're on your own where you're going to hike your pace and then stations to support you. So, two water stations, two aid stations. The food that's there, again, if you have some pretty strict allergies, I would say maybe bring your own
Hmm.
because we are going to have peanut butter and jelly. There's going to
Nice.
be apples and bananas. We're going to have some savory snacks. We're going to have some sweet snacks. But if you don't have, like I say, pretty strict food allergies, we're going to have something for you to stay energized. And then once you hit your stations at the finish line, you're going to hear the DJ and people are going to be cheering for you. And that's fun. There's just no way around that. And then when you finish, you not only get a certificate, but you get a medal. And I want all that. I want all the bling. I want all the, I have to share with you, my little certificate, the first time I ever hiked.
Oh,
I
very cool.
I keep them all. I want every one
Yeah.
of them. The medals, I'm going to wear it to the restaurant because I always need a margarita after the event, right? We'll
I
talk
like a
about what you should
hamburger.
do before. You should not drink them before, but afterwards, I highly recommend. And then I wear my medal to the restaurant. So I love all the bling that comes with it.
Now you mentioned sweet snacks and savory snacks. Now what
Yeah.
about drinks on the event day? So I
Yeah.
know water should probably be provided, I'm
Always.
assuming.
So every single station, and we try to have a station at least every 5 miles. Now,
Okay.
sometimes just nature won't allow because we can't put a station somewhere. So you're going to see them between the 4 and 6 mile every
Okay.
time. There are going to be, again, two water stations. We will have energy drinks, and sometimes we'll have a sponsor. So it could be some kind of protein drink, energy drink, the water, always an electrolyte. We generally have sponsors. Those can change from year to year, so I won't mention anyone in particular, but we always try to have an electrolyte. If you are somebody who knows that you generally need those, and I think after hiking 20 miles, we all do, I pack my own electrolyte because you may have one that you just really love That would be
Absolutely.
something I'd say, don't forget that. So
Yeah.
great
Yeah,
question on the how do you stay hydrated?
for sure. Now, how much water do you recommend that someone carries for those 4 to 6 miles? Like
Yeah,
you probably don't need to put 90 ounces of water in your backpack or in your hydration pack, whatever it is,
that's
for
right.
just for 4 to 6 miles, right? I
Yeah,
think that was the first mistake I made when I did a long distance event. I like
yeah,
filled my hydration pack up all the way to the top, and I carried like 6 extra pounds with me that I
yeah,
didn't need to carry. And so I
yeah.
learned as I went through the event is like, oh, I guess I don't need all that water. I only need like, 12 ounces to get me through to the next one.
Yeah. So for me personally, I don't, my water can just be in a plastic bottle that I can refill. And that's the thing to remember at a Mammoth March. You must bring a water vessel with you. We don't have
Gotcha.
cups on location. And in fact, some of the parks have enough of a criteria that I even have to check and make sure as you're coming through and you're registering that you have that water vessel. They don't want anybody out on the trail that doesn't have a water vessel they can refill. For me personally, it is those 16 fluid ounces in a water bottle that's just plastic that I can carry. I don't want that. I
Right.
just want something as light as possible. But there are folks who can't just drink lukewarm water. My husband's a great example. He'll even, like freeze his, put ice in his. He doesn't mind the little extra weight. Again, because you're hitting those stations every 4 to 6 miles, we have never run out of water. We will always have extra water. We know that is a huge criteria. I would share with you that if there's anything that I worry about for hikers is folks not staying hydrated.
Right.
And hydration doesn't start the day of the event, right? For those of
Right.
us who have done some of these challenges, it really starts your whole week before.
Absolutely.
Kind of highly recommend you don't drink any alcohol the whole week before, definitely not the night before. If I see anything that keeps folks from finishing the most, it's lack of hydration.
I really like that you said that because hiking really is, it's an athletic event,
It
right?
is.
And so many people, I wish more people would start thinking of it like that. And if
Yeah,
you're thinking of an athlete going into whatever event they're going into, they are looking at their nutrition leading up to that event, not just the day of the event, right?
that's
And
that's right.
exactly what you just said. You're hydrating the whole week before. You're
Right.
probably reducing that alcohol or abstaining completely because that's a big dehydrator for us.
Big time.
And I'm really glad that you touched on that.
Yeah.
And then physically wise, just getting those miles on your feet, right?
Yeah,
Being on
yeah.
your feet.
Well, so that you're breaking in those shoes and you're trying out, like you said, some of the equipment and the gear that you're going to take. It's all just that practice, like you say. Now, do we have folks who show up the day of the event and they've never done anything like
Yes,
that? Yes,
of course.
absolutely, we do.
Yeah.
But my concern or fear is their ability to finish has kind of has gone down, right? Because they haven't
Yes.
done some of that
Yeah.
preparation. And
Yeah.
again, knowing the age that I was, I knew I needed to train for this. I wasn't just going to go out and hike the 20 miles. I needed to be prepared and I wanted to finish. So, yeah.
What's your ratio for people registering to either finishing or not finishing? Do you have those statistics? Yeah.
Generally, at our events, we will have at least 1,000 people. We generally go from 1,000 to 1,500 at every single event. I'm surprised sometimes how alone you are on the trail when you've
Mhm.
got that many folks. Generally speaking, we have a 20% no show.
Oh,
So you think about then that event, if you will, that 1,500, and now we've only got about 1,200, 1,250 showing up. Generally speaking, we will have anywhere from we've had as high as 92% finish.
that's a
Yes,
high
to at
percentage.
kind of as low as the high 60s, low 70s.
Okay.
Now,
It
and
depends on weather conditions.
it
Yeah.
does, and a little bit of the elevation, or
Yes.
like you said, is it super hot that day? Where we've
Yeah.
had events that are cooler, the hydration part doesn't mean you still don't hydrate, you still do, right? But we just don't see the folks not being able to finish.
Right.
Yeah, kind of interesting stats.
Yeah, that is interesting. Very cool. All right. Oh, I did want to say something in regards to hydration. Just, and you did mention it a little bit in regards to allergies and same with the snacks. If you haven't trained with the snacks, like if you have a little bit of a sensitive stomach, you
Yeah,
might not want to try new things the day of the event, right?
yeah,
Yeah, that's
right.
just kind of one of those. athlete things that I remember from back in the day. And it's like, yeah, don't do anything new the day of the event.
And
Yeah.
it is funny how you learn what you need from a nutritional value. I would
Yeah.
agree. We have some great sponsors. If you're not sure about it, we're fine if you tuck one of those into your backpack. Try it later after
And
you
try
get
it
home.
later.
No,
That's
I have found for me personally, even though I love peanut butter and jelly and I do eat those at the events, I can only eat a whole sandwich, like a half and a half at each stop. If I eat more than that, it's just too much. It
yeah.
slows me down. So
Yeah.
you learn a lot about what you kind of need to keep you going.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what is your must-have gear items when you hit the trail? Or when you hit, like when you do a Mammoth March, what are your must-have items?
Yeah. And when you say gear, I'm going to broaden that a little bit. So
Sure.
I don't ever go on a hike that I don't have my water and my hiking poles,
Right.
ever.
Okay.
There have been too many times I thought, oh, it's only 2 miles. I don't need my water. Always at yes, thank you very much. Always the water, always the hiking poles. So I never go anywhere without those. I would say if I'm getting ready to do one of these events, a Mammoth March, because it is so well supported, the only other things I'm really worried about there is I'm going to have a really nice blister pad just in case
Mm,
something wears and
hmm
not spend the money for them. They're the ones that stick so much that you can't hardly get them off afterwards. Those are the ones you need because I don't want a blister to keep me from finishing my event. So I'm going to come with that because there may be, maybe the shoes are wearing just a little bit. Generally, I know in advance. My first one in Alabama, definitely some blisters. So the blister pads are what got me through it. So again, the blister pads. Those are kind of oh my gosh, I'm not even going to hit the path if I don't have those items, right?
Now, what about a headlamp or a flashlight? Like, do people finish in the dark?
So on that front, we very much try to discourage. And what you have found is when we first started doing the Mammoth Marches in, 2022, we really started 2020, but COVID hit. So what we have installed now are cutoff times. So that last station where you can be picked up for a dropout, we are going to have a cutoff time so that it doesn't get dark because we done it? Yes, we have. We don't want to recommend it. It has our sweepers in danger and even some of our staff. Right. The first time I trained, I thought, well, what if I can't do it in 8 hours? We don't want you finishing with a headlamp. It's
Okay.
just not safe for everybody. So what you'll find is when you sign up for the event, you're going to have a cutoff time as we get later in the year and darkness comes upon us early. You're going to see earlier cutoff times. If we're in the summer, you're not going to see a cutoff time at that last station until 7 o'clock. So again, we really discourage anybody. We can't force you not to, but we're going to say this is our cutoff time for everybody's safety. And it's not just yours. Again, it's the sweepers, it's the staff. Are we going to come rescue you? Yes, we will.
Now,
Yeah.
let's talk about trail markings. Are the
Yeah.
trails well marked? Like, is it easy to follow? Will you know where to go? That sort of thing.
Yeah. We don't want you to worry. We just want you to get out there and hike and keep your pace. So you're going to have a couple of different apps that you'll be able to use. All trails will download it to that. But really, we as a staff go out the 2 days prior, really on a Wednesday and a Thursday, and mark that trail with flags and where to turn and arrows. It is so well marked. Now, to say that folks have never gotten lost, that's not true. But if you have your all trails downloaded in advance so it doesn't drain your battery and the flags, they are really great. There have been times where there have been folks who have come in and on that Friday, so we've set the path, right? We've set it on both Wednesday and Thursday, and we've had folks who have messed with the signs. We've had a couple of, but we try to counteract those. We'll go out and try to make sure that folks are not heading in the wrong direction. The trails are so well marked. And then you've got 1,500 people that you're following, right?
You're following the right
The right
person.
person. Really well done on that. I would say that's one of the highlights to this event is how well the paths are marked.
Now, tell me about a little bit more about the behind the scenes. Like, what does it take to pull off an event like this? And what are some of the things to make it run smoothly?
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned, we are generally getting to those parks earlier in the week so we can, again, mark the trail on Wednesday and Thursday. Then more staff come in on Friday to literally set up for everything because we want to be ready for everybody that Saturday morning. But it takes us a good 8 hours, generally 18 members to set up for the day of the event because we have everything from, bringing in the water, tables that are rented, chairs, porta potties, right?
Mm.
Necessary. We set up tents because we have a merchandise tent and we have an arch so that you go through at the beginning with that DJ and you feel like it's kind of a big deal and you finish and it's a big deal. And then you have all the supplies that go out for all those aid stations we talked about with the apples and the peanut butter and the jelly. So all that stuff kind of happens behind the scenes on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday so that we're ready for everybody on Saturday. I think what makes the event run so smoothly is first and foremost are the volunteers. We generally could have anywhere from 25 to 30 volunteers at an event. And you think about our volunteers are the folks who are helping us get folks registered. They are at those aid stations. They are making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for hours, right? Cutting bananas and apples. And some of them have it down to a science on the peanut butter and jelly. Or they're helping folks fill those hydration or their bladders. So our volunteers, and then they're back at the finish line handing out medals to folks who have finished. So couldn't do it without the volunteers. That's number one. The other thing I would mention that helps it run so smoothly is think about 1,500 folks all showing up, and if they all wanted to start at the same time. Well, that's impossible, right?
Yes.
So really pay attention to when your start time is. I know sometimes folks are so anxious and they want to get out there and they're ready and maybe they're afraid about the heat or, oh my gosh, I'm going to not make it before the sun sets and I've got to get that cutoff time. Folks will want to show up an hour before their actual start time. I promise you, you'll have plenty of time, but showing up at your start time, we allow you to come in a half hour before, so important. That way you don't have everybody coming in at that one time, right? The flow of the start line better, the flow for the porta potties. Not everybody's getting off the trail at the same time. So start times are really important. And just ask for folks to pay attention to those. That makes everything run smoothly for everybody.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned volunteers. Are you
Yeah.
still looking for volunteers? And what does it take to sign up to be a volunteer?
I think every event, we always look for volunteers because we use our volunteers in so many different ways. When we do the event in Texas, you'll go in like you're getting ready to buy a ticket, and at the bottom of it, it'll say for volunteer opportunities. So go ahead and sign up through that. We'll get your name. The nice thing about it is when you volunteer at an event, it earns you a free ticket to another event.
Oh,
Now you can give it to a loved one, or maybe you just want to see what this whole thing's about before I sign up for it, right? Maybe I'll just volunteer first, see all the hype, and then I'll use my ticket for another event. You either get a free sweatshirt or t-shirt, kind of depending upon what the weather looks like, and you just get to have a whole lot of fun. I have folks who volunteer, and that's really all they want to do because they want to see the joy on people's faces when they finish. It is kind of breathtaking. It's kind of fun.
very fun. That's
Yeah.
exciting.
Volunteers are huge.
Yeah, very cool. I'm going to have to look at the volunteer status and maybe I
Yeah.
can get in as a
Online, yes.
volunteer. I think that would be a lot of fun. I
We have
always
a
like
lot.
doing the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah,
So let's talk about a few stories from the trail. So
yeah,
are there any like the funniest moments or any wildlife encounters that you can think of that are
yeah.
top of mind?
There's so many. I'm going to share a couple of what I think are heartwarming ones, and then I'm going
Okay.
to tell you a couple of silly ones. So the heartwarming ones, we have had, for example, a sister show up with this beautiful sign, all glittery, and she was going to be there for her sister who was doing the event. She actually drove from Nebraska to Wisconsin to be at the finish line for the sister. Well, she was supposed to come that weekend, and they were supposed to kind of do a girls' weekend. Well, the sister said, "Oh, I can't make it," because she knew she wanted to surprise her at the finish line. So here she is. She doesn't think anybody's going to be there to support her at the end. And here's her sister with this big, beautiful glitter sign. Tears are everywhere. It
Oh,
just
that's
was
beautiful.
amazing. We
Yeah.
have had husbands, dads show up in true cheerleading with skirts and
Really?
uniforms to encourage their wives, which is amazing, right? I just think it's such a camaraderie for folks when they're finishing. One of the silly stories I can share with you is I was actually hiking an event, and my husband and I were behind another couple. I assumed they were husband and wife. I didn't know. But I thought she has got some fantastic looking legs. Her calf muscles were huge. And I was so impressed. And I'm definitely one of those people, being former HR, I'm going to give a compliment where a compliment is due.
Nice.
So as we passed her, and I told my husband, I said, just hold your breath. And he's like, oh, what are you going to say? Right. And so as I passed this lady, I said, you have some of the sexiest legs I've ever seen. I
Ah,
said, you must work out a lot. And so she was very appreciative. And we go on. About 3 events later, right? I'm at the event, I'm at the main venue, there's someone sitting on the ground, and I just want to check on her, make sure she's okay. And I said, are you doing okay? Can I get you anything? Because she had finished, and she said, no, I'm good. She said, you don't remember me, do you? And I went, no, now listen, she's sitting on the ground, so I can't tell. And she said, I'm sexy legs. I said,
ah.
oh, I knew it. That's
That's why she
awesome,
has
right?
such sexy legs, because she just keeps on hiking, right?
She just keeps on hiking. That's
Yeah.
right. We have actually, we'll talk about Mammoth March at other places that we volunteer. And I actually put a medal on somebody, and she said, you don't remember me either, do you? And I said, no. And she said, I'm doing this because you talked about it. And I said, oh
Ah,
my, I'm an influencer of at least one.
there you go.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
sure you're influencing more people than just one.
We hope so. But
Yeah.
you had asked about the animal stories, and
Yeah.
honestly, I don't have a lot of those. I think when you get 1,500 people on a
Yeah.
trail, I think the animals have scattered. So there have been no close calls. I mean, occasionally there's a deer. I hate to say that. If you're coming to look for some nature,
You'll see the
we
trees and you'll see but
you
you're
sure
probably
will.
not going to see a critter.
Probably not too many critters when you got that much traffic coming through. So yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Very cool. What do you think the Mammoth March has taught you about yourself? Any words of wisdom or inspiration in there?
Yeah. Then I'm not too old to try something new. Right.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not too unfit as long as I show up and try. So we talked earlier about the folks who don't finish. If you
Hmm.
don't finish, you showed up and you
Absolutely.
tried
Yeah.
and you learned something new about yourself. And
Yes.
I learned that I can do hard stuff. I am not an athletic person, never did organized sports, but I'm an active person. And knowing that I can be active at my age, at our age, at 58, and do 20 miles when my adult children, girls, are like, no, we're not, no. I have one who does it. The other two are like, stop asking. We're not going to do it. But they're very proud of us. They're very proud of
Yeah,
my husband and I. So I've just learned I can do tough stuff, and it's joyful.
that's
Yeah,
so cool. I really like that a lot. The ones who fail are the ones who don't show up, right?
completely agree. That's right.
Like, and so people don't show up for a number of reasons. Like, I know
That's right.
there's, health issues and there's,
That's right.
life happens. And so, and I'm not referring to that. I'm referring to, just not going because you just feel you can't or whatever. But
Yeah,
I just want to really encourage people to, if you think you can and if you want to, really
just
just
try.
pull every ounce of courage you can and
Yeah,
just
yeah.
get yourself there.
Try, see what you can do, and we'll
Exactly.
support you. And you will be so, again, surprised at how much you can do when
Hmm.
you've got other like-minded folks around you. When it is a supported event, it's fun, right? We've got
Yes,
DJs and you have events. So again, just show up. Just show up and
absolutely.
see what you
Just
can
show
do.
up. Yeah. And
Completely
even
agree.
if, like for some people, the goal might be to just make it to the cutoff, right?
Absolutely.
Make it to the
Absolutely.
cutoff. And then you get
Yes,
a ride back the last few miles.
that's right.
That's okay too. It's
Totally
there
right.
for. That's what
The,
it's
the,
there for.
the ride story makes me think, or the pickup makes me think of. So my husband generally does a lot of the pickups. So he's in
Okay.
the van and he's at those different locations. And this is his story, but I have to share because I think this is another element of something we should mention is, as adult women and men, we should know our bodies.
Yes.
I'm not saying quit when there's a blister. I think you can push through that. But there are times when you need to be wise.
Yes.
So my husband's story is he's in the van and he's picking up folks. And again, there are opportunities for you to drop out.
Yes.
So he's driving the van, he's along, and there's somebody literally leaning over a guardrail, and he's not sure what's happening. So he stops the van and walks up to her, and he can tell she's physically sick. And he's like, hey, what's going on? And she said, not feeling well. And he said, is this the first time you've been ill? And she said, no, this is about the fourth or fifth time. And he said, no, ma'am, you're now in the car with me. Get
Yeah.
in, right? We're
To get
done.
in. Yeah.
She got in and she started talking to him. And she said, she said, as I was leaning over that guardrail, becoming physically ill, she said, I said to God, God, please let me know if I should try to finish going on or send me a message.
Well, I'm glad she listened to the message that
Got
arrived.
the message. That's
Yes.
right. And I would just say, while we want to push ourselves, don't end up in an emergency room. Don't
Right.
end up with something. Know your body well enough to say, okay, it's a blister. I'll put a blister pad on it. I can get through that. Or I need to stretch a little bit more. But don't be again, I'm so dehydrated that, I'm going to have to be picked up by an EMT, which we always have those folks on staff. But it's another, what did I learn about myself? I learned that I can't, this is enough. 15 was enough. 12 was enough.
Right.
Listen to your body, be wise.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That's the best advice out there. Listen to your body, and maybe that day is not your day for
that's right.
whatever's going on in the universe,
That's right.
right? Could have picked up a bug a couple of days before and your
And
body
that
just
happens.
isn't feeling it. And that's
That's
okay
right.
too.
And
These
it's
things
okay.
happen.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you're
It
not
is
allowed to
okay.
be negative because you did show up.
Yep.
Yeah.
You got it. Is
Thank
there
you.
anything else that you want to share that you don't think that we covered?
I think there are a couple of things that we have talked about as we've spent our time together, but a couple of things I want to remind folks to do,
Yeah.
right? Some what I consider to be helpful hints. I personally am always going to take my hiking poles. Okay.
Oh, I love
I
my
again,
hiking poles. Yeah.
yeah, I used to think, oh, they're not sexy. I'm going to bring the sexy back into hiking poles
There
because
you go.
you do look like you know what you're doing. And by the way, even if the terrain from a elevation or going down, having those hiking poles and my hands up like this all the time, my fingers don't swell. I
Right.
do not like to hike with my hands down, and now my hands are tight.
That's
So
right.
hiking poles.
Circulation for your hands for sure.
Love that. I would say again, a hint that I would want to share is with your whatever brand, and I'm not an advertiser, but these are the ones that I use.
Are those
If you have
Brooks? What are
they're
those?
Brooks,
Okay.
yeah, these are Cascadias, and I love them for all the terrains. But somebody had shared with me that very last eyelet up here, there's a reason for it. Use that last eyelet on the top of your shoe. It helps keep it snug and you don't get the rubbing.
The one of your videos that you guys do, you should do it on how to lace your
Proper,
shoes, right?
yes,
And the
there is a
purpose of
proper
that
way.
eyelet. And
Yes.
I think there are a few things on YouTube about that. And I
Yep.
think I'm glad you brought that up because that is important. And that stops that rubbing, like you said,
It does.
in the
It's a game
heel,
changer.
and it prevents
Now,
blisters.
I will ask you, do you do the Vaseline on the feet? I
I have
love
Vaseline on my feet.
similar, but
Yeah.
yeah, Vaseline I always have at my house. That'd be another one I would say for folks who are prone to kind of
Uh-huh.
having blisters. And I would say I didn't think this one was important, but socks make a difference. I
Absolutely.
wool socks, a little thicker, something that'll breathe with you. That's one I missed for years. Like,
Hmm.
oh, a sock's a sock. No,
You
good
need
socks
good
make good.
socks. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and
yeah,
that's the importance of training too, right?
yeah,
Is knowing what works for your feet and for your body. Like you don't want to go
yeah,
out there, trying to do 20 miles in a brand new sports bra and a brand new pair of underwears and a brand new pair of socks that
yeah,
you've never worn before,
yeah.
right? Because you start getting all sorts of rubbing and chafing in areas that you don't want.
So,
So
as you said,
you want to train with the gear that you're going to use on the day of the event. Yeah,
that's right. And it does seem
absolutely.
like a no-brainer not to wear brand new shoes the day of the event, but some folks still do
Some,
it. So,
yeah.
yeah. So you mentioned the fanny pack, and this is
Yeah.
one that I see if there's what I'll call not a mistake, but so when I hike, I want to be as kind of carefree as I can. I don't even like necessarily things on my back because that's just
Hmm.
more sweating that I do. But for most of the Mammoth marches, I carry nothing more than this.
It's a fanny
It's a
pack
fanny
with a
pack.
pouch and a water
Yeah.
bottle holder. Yeah.
Water bottle here, the phone goes in here, my tissues, those blister pads that I mentioned,
Yeah.
and then a few Jolly Ranchers or a
Oh,
Lifesaver.
nice.
I like
Yeah.
those little sugary just to
Hmm.
kind of get me. I just need those sometimes at the last, 5 or 6 miles. Highly recommend that. What I would say for a lot of our folks as a first time hiker to one of our events, we're back to that. I didn't know that y'all would have all the water I needed and the food. And so folks are coming with what I would almost consider an overnight pack. And it's like we're talking 20 pounds on them.
Gosh, yeah, that's a lot. And that takes a lot on your core, right? And your hips and your knees with all that extra weight.
We have a participant guide, and if you read through that, it will tell you everything that we will supply for you. And you'll know, again, unless you have some pretty strict food allergies, go minimal. We'll have all that stuff for you. I do have one other pack. If it's a little bit more elevation and I want to carry my bladder, but it again is no bigger than something like this. So,
Running, like a small
yeah,
running type backpack. Yeah.
don't overpack for the event. That's
Yeah.
probably one of the bigger things that I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I did for my very first event that I did.
You mentioned,
I
yeah,
overpacked. I just didn't know how often, like, I read the package and I knew that there were going to be aid stations, but then I just didn't feel comfortable
yeah,
going so lightweight for such a long distance. But
yeah.
experience has taught me you can
Okay.
go super light. You have water, you have food, it's going to be there for you. And I think it's part of that trust, right?
It
Like
is.
trusting that that's going to be supplied because you are going into the unknown. Especially
Right.
if it's your first event, you
That's
have
right.
no idea what to expect, and that creates a
Yeah.
lot of fear for people. And so then we just, pack all our stuff
Yeah.
that we
So
need.
I'm
Yeah.
hoping folks that are going to maybe hike in Texas at our event will listen to your podcast and know
Yes.
we got you. So pack light.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You don't need a 90 ounces of water. You just need a small to medium sized water bottle. Yeah.
that's right. Thanks for
Yeah.
letting me share some of those tips. Those are a couple of things for me personally and that I see for some of our participants that I think kind of makes a difference. The other thing I would probably mention, we talked about would I change my shoes for maybe a different terrain or elevation. Generally speaking, I would keep my same shoes. I'm not one that wants to change my shoes, but I would say weather, meaning do you need a rain jacket?
Ah,
Those are, or do
yes.
it's a little cold. Our Tennessee event last year was a mudslide. It rained the entire event. So think more about your weather, the hot, the rain, and what you would do differently in those occasions. For me personally, I would wear the same shoes. Yeah,
Right. No, that's good advice.
yeah,
The one other thing in regards to that is sometimes I will pack an extra pair of socks. Like,
agree.
yeah.
Yes,
So if you like, let's say if it is rainy or if it is muddy or you step into a puddle or you just get sweatier more than usual for whatever reason, I like to have just that backup pair of socks so that I can change them out if I feel that I need to. And it just gives me a renewed sense of energy.
yes. No, that's
Yeah.
perfect advice because that Tennessee event that I just mentioned
Yeah.
had some creek crossings because there were so much. Now, we tried to tell folks in advance of that, like, here's the update, like the night, day before on what the trail's going to look like. And sometimes, because nature, you may have to cross a creek. So I love that. Thank you for reminding me of that one. Socks are a great extra thing to have with you. Agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just did it. It's called Eagle Rock Loop. It's over in Arkansas, and there's several creek crossings there. And we chose to just wear our regular shoes, like our
Yeah.
regular trail runners, like the Brooks Cascade, or I
Yeah.
wear the Hoka
Sure.
Trail Gaiters.
Yeah.
And so we just wore our regular shoes through the water. It was really interesting. That was the first time that I had done that. And it was interesting that the socks dried, the shoes dried. It
Right.
didn't take that long, and we were just able to continue going. And I didn't have any issues with my feet or blisters or anything.
Same. And right. So
Yeah, I
because
think so too.
not all the socks are going to dry like that one. So
Yeah,
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 I've done similar. Yeah.
yeah,
I'm not one to want to sit down and change all that stuff unless it's
yeah,
really bad. So yeah, I completely agree. And
yeah.
in Arkansas, love it. We have a new event there this year.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah,
Very cool. Yeah,
yeah,
Arkansas has some nice trails. It's beautiful.
yeah,
Yeah, very
yeah.
cool. All right. Anything else, Tanya? This has been really fun.
No, just thank you again for your time. I hope it inspires folks to join Mammoth March. I know from my husband and I, once we started doing these on a regular basis, now our time as retirees, when we take a vacation, if that's what you want to call it now, because it kind of always seems like a vacation, we are now doing what we call walking holidays. So we have
Nice.
gone to the UK, we're going to do the Portugal Camino, because now guess what? After doing these 20 miles, I know I can do those.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Melanie, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate you. And we hope to see you in Texas.
Oh, absolutely. I'm planning to be there.
Take
You
care.
stay. Thank you for joining me On the Just Hyke podcast today, remember, every step you take, no matter how small, is part of your journey from sidewalk to summit. I'm grateful you're here, growing, learning, and choosing to show up for yourself again and again. All right, before we go, don't forget to check out the Just Hyke Trailmate, the lightweight trail tool designed by a woman, me, for women, you, who hike with confidence. You'll find it at justhyke.com.